welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. Today we have on Dr. Mariza Snyder, who is an author, a functional practitioner, a women's hormone expert. She has written several books, but the one we are excited to talk to her today is the Essential Oils Menopause Solution. So welcome, Mariza.
Thanks so much for having me.
You know, we love any alternatives that we can talk about for midlife women, because we are always in search of, well, maybe this will work, or maybe this will help, and alternative solutions. And your book is, you know, Bridget and I were just discussing, your book is really informative about options that are maybe not related to HRTs. So what made you write this book?
That's a great question. I was actually on the book tour from my last book number 7, the Essential Oils Hormone Solution. And I had met a good 1,000 women or more, and I got a chance to connect with them, every single one of them, as I was signing books. And the thing that as I looked over to the audience, the majority of women were in their late 40s, their 50s, even their 60s. And one of the things that kept coming up was that they felt, although the book really addressed hormone issues, they still felt like they were being not by my book anyway, but just in general, they felt they were dismissed. They felt overall they just get looked over, they get blown off, you know, and that so the question that kept coming up is like, is there anything specifically in here for me? And so in that book was a very generalized book. It could have served women in their early 20s. It could serve women in their 40s and 50s. And so as I finished that tour, I was getting a lot of pressure from the publishing house to have another book. And I just didn't know what it was going to be. When I wanted to give credence to the one that I had just spent 3 years working on, but also I wanted to be sure that I could step up and serve my next amazing community of women. And that's where then I felt that need, is that no one was talking to women. We avoid talking about midlife. We avoid talking about menopause. No one wants to touch it. And so I just felt so driven and just really called to do that work. And I would say that it's my best book to date, because I dug so deep into it. And I really came from a place of heart service to really show up for women as we navigate a really massive part of our life, and definitely one of the most profound times of our life.
Yes, the beginning of your book is really interesting. You talk about your mother and how what she was going through led you to really research this and really look into this. And also another part of it is many women can't take hormones. So you also address how sometimes things are just prescribed willy-nilly to women, and like you said, not listened to. And also many women cannot take HRTs. They can't take hormone replacement.
And it often isn't solving a root cause problem. You know, it's just it's such a simple Band-Aid for such an easy Band-Aid to write off. And we just can do so much better than that. We can. We can do so much better for women as they transition out of childbearing years. I 100% believe that. And this is the kind of conversation where the more conversations like this we get to have, the more we get to open the door for possibilities for women. Like my mom last weekend ran 50 miles. She turned 61 mid-October, and then she ran 50 miles the next weekend. I threw her a big birthday party, a De Las Muertes birthday party. And then she went running. She ran a marathon on Saturday and a half marathon on Sunday.
Yeah. And you talk about in your book how before she went through this and you really worked with her, she had done what many women do, gain the weight gain that comes with menopause, all the different things you're feeling, the sweats, the hot flashes, the night sweats. You know, you talked about how you addressed that after you looked into this. But one thing I found so fascinating was all of the things, all the harmful things that are in products that we use every day. And I thought, oh my goodness, we have been using these things since, I don't know how long, since we were born. And that was a real eye-opener, just going through everything that was inside of that. So can you talk a little bit, without giving away your book, what you did to help your mother?
Absolutely. So, I know you kind of explained a little bit, but my mama was going through what I call the eye of the storm. You know, the heavy periods, the weight gain, the mood swings, the hot flashes. That was kind of like the that's it. Like now that the hot flashes are here, and when a lot of women don't realize is that the kind of that eye of the storm isn't even menopause yet, it's perimenopause. And and so often we're women and that's why I had to really address the perimenopause spectrum as well inside of the book, because we are kind of told that it's all going to happen in menopause, but a lot of it starts to happen in our 40s, and I feel like we get kind of sideswiped, and we're just like, wait, what is this? What's happening right now? And we didn't really even start talking about perimenopause until like the last couple of decades. Really, it became more of a common terminology. And so my mama was in it, and she was like, what is happening with me? And she went to a kind of a functional practitioner, but at the end of the day, they kind of were just following the same formula as everybody else. And she was put on a synthetic estrogen patch. Little did my mama know, she had major symptoms for estrogen dominance already. Her going through one of the stories that didn't make it into the book, or maybe it got shortened, was the 30 tampons she went through in one day, to the point that she had to call a plumber, and the plumber shamefully came out with a tampon in his hand and was like, that's what clogged the toilet system. And my mom looked at him like, oh my goodness, like, it's awful man. And so like that was like, can you like she wanted to use that many tampons ever? In one day,
nobody does.
Like,
and it says on the box you can flush up. So
yes,
of course she did.
Awful. And you're just caught up in the emergency of the situation. You're not thinking about, when I'm changing, this is not really related to, but when I'm changing a blowout, like it's all hands on deck. It's a hot mess of a situation. I have a 10-month-old baby right now, my mom's favorite person in the whole world. But like, think about, when she was in that, she wasn't sure what was going on. So she just did what they said. She didn't tell me, gets on the patch, and within a matter of weeks, everything turns upside down. But she started up having very suicidal thoughts. She went into a very severe depression, and that has never in my whole life ever been my mama. She was scared for her life. She was like, I don't know what's happening. So it took over. Clearly we weaned her off the patch. We were really mindful. Again, at that particular time, when you put that much synthetic estrogen in the system, your body, we can become kind of addicted. So you got to be super mindful. You can't just take that sucker off and throw it in the trash as much as you want to. You want to, scale down a little bit so that you don't have the big Mack truck moment. So many women are put on birth control in their 40s, and then it's 55. No one said anything about still being on birth control or still being on synthetic hormones, and they come off of them, and it's just a scary hot mess of a time. And they're like, oh my God, put me back on those, because they weren't weaned off. And there can be kind of almost an addiction that happens. The body kind of gets craving that excess estrogen. And so we had to be super mindful. First things first, she had insulin resistance. She was close to being pre-diabetic. That's a lot of what happens to women in midlife as well. And so we had to be really and that was really a lot of the symptomology. That was the driver. We had some metabolic dysfunction, that in her liver was a little bit sluggish, And so we diet was number one. I had her implement some pretty serious self-care practices. We swapped out diet sodas for water, and sparkling waters. I did a big trash dump of her kitchen. I can't come over to everybody's house, but I definitely went over to my mama's, and implemented essential oils, implemented supplementation. She definitely had some nutrient deficiencies we wanted to manage, and use oils to kind of manage some of those symptoms that she was gradually moving through. But after 2 months of this protocol, 60 days, she had dropped almost 30 pounds. And the hot flashes were gone. She was sleeping better, but most importantly, the depression was gone too.
That's definitely the most important part of that story, is that her depression was gone.
You change your hormones, you change a lot,
Exactly.
on a mental level.
A lot of women don't realize that perimenopause affects your mental health as well. They're looking for the hot flashes, they're looking for the weight gain, but they're not aware that the mood swings, the anxiety, the depression are all part of that as well.
Overwhelmed. Yeah.
For the woman who's just kind of in perimenopause or just starting and goes down the aisle of a store and sees essential oils, having no idea what they are, can you explain to them what an essential oil is and how it can help?
Absolutely. Such a great question. And the way that I just want to talk a little bit about my philosophy around essential oils is that let's say this transition, this journey that we're going to transition out of baby rearing phase into menopause, we're talking 13 years, give or take, for some women, right? And you think about that time in our life, the busiest time of our life. We're raising children, or we're taking care of our family. We are the common denominator, right? I know I'm the common denominator. I know what's going on out there. I'm running that show. You know what I'm saying? We've got our careers, we've got our communities, we've got the big things that we're doing in the world. They're going on right now, right? In that phase. And so in that journey, I don't know about you, but I take as many wins as I can get. I take as many instant wins as I can get. And as much as I can help myself move through the day with as much ease and grace. And then also whatever tools and solutions I can use to help piggyback on the self-care that I'm trying to implement. And so that's what I think about essential oils, is they're phenomenal. They accentuate the rituals of self-care. And they also can instantly, like a piece of dark chocolate, give you a really phenomenal instant win. And so I think of essential oils as the dark chocolate of perimenopause and menopause. So that's my philosophy around oils. Oils can do some really powerful things, but when it comes to managing a lot of these changes and pivots, as we navigate this beautiful terrain into this next beautiful journey, we deserve as many little instant chocolate wins via essential oils that we can get. We're not trying to create more insulin resistance here. So that's how I think about them. So essential oils are natural, aromatic, volatile chemicals. They are found on plants all over the world, from Asia to Madagascar to Haiti to Indonesia, all over the world. And we are extracting these specific volatile chemicals for their benefits, for their physiological benefits, from supporting increased oxygen intake to the mitochondria, from immune system support, boosting acetylcholine in neurons in the brain, to reducing hot flashes, banishing cravings. Like, there's so many ways, instant energy. There's all these different ways that we can leverage using essential oils throughout the day to punctuate our day, to really create as much of the consistent healthy habits that we want, that are really gonna allow us to create that longevity over time.
So you get these oils.
Yeah.
How do they go into your body, and how do they help your body?
Absolutely. So there's 3 ways to use them, 3 mechanisms of usage. First way is aromatic, probably the most powerful, the most prolific. And the reason why aromatic is so powerful is that our sense of smell is the most powerful sense we have. Eyes are probably what we use the most, but sense of smell is like literally stranger danger. Talk about a direct highway to the amygdala and the limbic brain, into the stranger danger center, the reptilian part of our brain. It is going to be through the sense of smell, right? That immediately, danger is the kind of like the name of the game there. And so we have a no holds bar straight into the limbic system through the olfactory nerve, cranial nerve number 1. So by smelling something, we immediately are able to send a message to the hypothalamus, the control center for our hormones, to tell our body whether we're running or we're relaxing or calming. So essential oils, particularly oils like bergamot, lavender, cedarwood, even frankincense, and patchouli, although patchouli is not a favorite of mine. We don't actually have patchouli in our house at all. Or any of the florals, really, even jasmine can do this, will send a message to the brain, and it can actually drop serum cortisol levels if you've got them pumping. So if you've increased or triggered up the stress response system, and your adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol are kicking, you can shut that down. You can literally tell the brain everything is safe in the world. I call it sending safety signals to the brain. You also will drop blood pressure and pulse point within a matter of 60 seconds upon using. And you're using those relaxing oils. There's oils that are stimulating as well, and that are not going to send you into the stress response system, but will wake your booty up. You know what I'm saying? If you find yourself experiencing that 2 p.m., 4 p.m. energy slump where you're just crawling through the day and the only thing that's going to get you through is a Frappuccino and a Kind bar, you can use, actually I have a little blend right here. I call it the Get Stuff Done blend, that'll literally take you from zombie to superstar to like back in the game. I put it on before every podcast because I was up 30 times last night with a sick baby. Best believe I was applying oils before this interview because I wanted my brain to be running on all cylinders. And there are definitely times in my day where my brain is trying to take a break, whether I want it to or not. And so oils will get me back in the game pretty quickly. And it sure beats insulin resistant, spiked blood glucose driven frappuccinos every day, which over time is going to wreck my hormones and lead me towards more symptomology.
Right. And you include so much of that in your book about insulin resistance as well. Things that I just did not, I'd heard of it, but really didn't know the details of it. And then also you talk a lot about cortisol and how that just creates so much stress. And I do know that cortisol, that's like your fight or flight little thing in you, but to go with cortisol for a long period of time is not good for you at all. Nobody should be under stress. So you said your Get Stuff Done blend. Is that something that comes blended, or is that something that people blend themselves?
They can absolutely blend themselves. It comes blended for me, but I have versions of that in the book too. But the blend that I love the most, that has always worked for me in over a decade that I've been using essential oils, I call it the Instant Energy Blend. It can also be called the Get Stuff Done blend as well. You can call it whatever blend you need, like a little kick in the booty blend, whatever gets you going. And it's just in a roller bottle like this, a 10 ml roller, which you can get on Amazon or anywhere. Even go to Whole Foods or a natural food store, you can get roller bottles there. It's like basically 2 teaspoons of carrier oil, like fractionated coconut oil or almond seed oil, whatever you prefer. And it's 10 drops of peppermint and 10 drops of any citrus, wild orange, tangerine, grapefruit, whatever you love. But those 2 oils synergy together literally will wake you up like that. And that's aromatherapy. So that's how you're using it. That's that spa experience. That's the opening up the airways. That's the feeling good. I have a lot of different rituals where I use different oils. And so it depends on, basically every time I choose an oil, I'm choosing my mood. That's how powerful and profound they are. I want to feel more calm, I'm grabbing my lavender and bergamot. I need to get more energized, I'm grabbing my peppermint and any citrus. If I need to feel motivated, excited, maybe it's like frankincense and some tangerine and some rosemary, and so it just really depends on how I'm looking to feel. If I'm looking to feel more abundant, jasmine, rose. So like it just, and you kind of cue into what feels really good to you. So we've got little clusters all over the house, around all of our little diffusers, because you can actually diffuse. Right now we have a lot of fall yumminess in the house, cinnamons and wild oranges and cedarwood and Douglas fir. And these are all just not only boosting immune system, kind of helping the air, but just smells delicious. Just puts you in a good, yummy mood. So it just feels like that's kind of where we're at right now in our little oil journey in the house. And it just punctuates the day and just brings just a lot more yumminess to life, right? It's those details, I think, that really, really move the needle when it comes to creating joy and happiness and ritual in our life.
Yeah, I know that migraines, a lot of women, especially midlife women, but I suffered from them as well when I was younger, are a big thing, and headaches. And I had a friend just give me the peppermint oil on the back of my neck, and it was really helpful. Is that something that you find, or that can really help with that?
So many of us as women, especially as we're going through estrogen dominance, which is inevitable for most of us, just as a natural progression of how our hormones shift and change. So migraines are a big thing. I used to actually, in my practice, I treated a lot of migraines, but I love oils for migraines. And, someone like myself, I'm breastfeeding still. And when I was pregnant, I avoided any over-the-counter medications, still doing the same thing. And I probably had like 70 migraines when I was pregnant. And I realized that this is menopause, but just an example, I've had migraines my whole life. And so I used essential oils exclusively to manage the migraine pain. And again, if you can use them early enough, you catch it. That's the thing about a migraine. You got to catch that. You got to catch it before it gets really bad. But at the very least, it definitely significantly decreased so I actually could function in the world. And then today, still breastfeeding, I again just use oils to manage a lot of that pain management.
You had mentioned 3 ways. So you said aromatherapy.
Yeah, that was only one. Number 2,
I just want to make sure.
topical.
All right.
I was going to get to that right for the migraines. No, number 2 is topicals. Migraines, a great example of that. Digestive discomfort, right? Because that's going to happen, right, for us. Peppermint and spearmint and fennel are phenomenal oils for digestive discomfort, because it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. Ideally, we have a really happy gut. My big, protect your liver feed your gut. Probably words I stand by. In the book, I go into a lot of detail around the gut and liver. I think they're major players here. So it's about topical usage. Again, oils, on the back of the neck, on the shoulders to release tension. Peppermint's a great one. Frankincense a great one. Lavender's a great one for that. Kind of just easing that. We have a lot of muscle blends around our house because I use them all the time. I just have chronic neck pain in general, so I'm always using oils. I'm never using over-the-counter medications for that. And then oils for for the immune system. Again, I mentioned digestion. See what else you would use them for topically. You could just wear them as a perfume. You can use them as a stress support system on your wrist, on your palms. So those are there's a lot of different reasons why you would wear them topically. But I always say with topically, you're kind of working with the area of concern, whatever that area of concern is. Our little boy is all over the place, jumping, climbing. And so he bumped his noggin a couple days ago. And so we put a little lavender on his little bump, and it literally just shrunk before our eyes. So I love those types of remedies for children as well, grandchildren, little boo-boos. Even let's say you had some type of like irritation on your skin, you could use an oil for that as well, like things like acne or maybe eczema. It just really depends on what the root cause of those things are. But like our little boy, if he's had little red marks or little spots, we've used like gentle lavender and Roman chamomile. And then also oils for sleep, applying oils for sleep like lavender and Roman chamomile. My combo is lavender and vetiver. I call it like the natural liquid Ambium. And you put lavender and vetiver on, and you will not last more than 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. I know lavender was another one that I would put on like my neck to help with sleep as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What about your feet? Because I know we're talking about topical. A lot of people say
feet
to put
work. Feet are great. That's for children in particular, babies. Feet are a great place. It's a non-invasive place. It's an easy place to do. So we're putting immune oils on our little sick baby today. It's on his little feet. Or if you can get someone to apply it on your spine, even better. But just it's enough to get someone to apply it on your spine. It's a lot to get someone to do so. It's one thing you can do that on your children. You can do that on your grandkids. But to have someone do it for you, a little bit more challenging. So the feet are a great place. Back of the neck are a great place. Palms are a great place to apply oils. If you're just using it for like sleep, for mood support, for overall generalized support. But if you are trying to deal with a acid reflux, like fennel's your go-to oil for that, you're not going to put it on your feet.
Right.
You're going to put it on, right at the esophageal area.
Okay.
And what about the third one?
Third is the more controversial one, and that is going to be internal. Now, there are some really big benefits for internal usage. One, if you did have a gut issue, or you did have an oral issue or an esophageal issue, like clove oil has been used from dentists for many, many, many years, or melaleuca is amazing for canker sores, and any type of little sore that could pop up. But then people do take encapsulated oils to boost the immune system. So there's a lot of people who in the camp are just like, I'm a topical and aromatic kind of person. And then there's other people who find there's a lot of big benefit to using them internally. I do not recommend those for children before the age of 12. But yeah, some adults find it, especially if they're dealing with some type of indigestion, acid reflux, oils internally, especially encapsulated peppermint and ginger can be really, really helpful.
You were mentioning, it made me think of some of the symptoms of menopause and maybe what
absolutely.
you would suggest for combinations. So, you talked about peppermint for the headache, which is great. What about a low libido? A lot of women complain that their libido has died out in menopause.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so there are definitely I have chapters on low libido, and there's a lot more to low libido than using essential oils. But like I have a natural vaginal lubricant to use essential oils that really is nourishing and helpful, because when we lose that estrogen, we just become like, things just get a little less.
They get dry.
Yeah. So using that, I've tried and true vaginal lubricants that have been really helpful for women, but also maybe, depending on what women are going through, they have to just kind of, I would say work with your practitioner or work with somebody to help kind of boost that. Look at stress as well. That could be another big player here. And then also just, there's lots of different ways to create intimacy with your partner, and it could start really like that, because sometimes that has fallen to the wayside as well. So I always like to use oils in conjunction to diffusing oils like jasmine. Jasmine is the oil of confidence and self-assurance. It's one of my, I call it just so decadent. It's one of the most beautiful. You guys have smelled lavender oil. That's just beautiful. It's my favorite indulgent scent in the whole world. So I wear lavender pretty much every single day. I just love how, and every scent's going to be different on you too. And lavender was meant for me. Let me tell you, people tell me all the time, like, oh my goodness, what are you? I am intoxicating when I'm wearing lavender, basically. Even like a sweatshirt and a baby on me, people are like, ooh, what is that? So jasmine's great. Cinnamon is wonderful as well. Cinnamon's a natural kind of aphrodisiac. I love cinnamon for all kinds of reasons. Rose is clearly another one as well. And so setting the mood of diffusing oils like that before you're creating a time of intimacy, running a bath with some of these oils is really beautiful, like jasmine and rose and sandalwood as well. And so there's just these oils that can elicit just feelings of desire and really create an environment of desire and connection that I think really kind of lends to the low libido piece. What they don't do though, is they don't bring back the estrogen. You know what I'm saying? That, right. And that's really a lot of what's happening here. And so I just want to speak into that they're creating the mood, they're creating sensuality, they're lending to that experience, but they're not bringing back the hormones.
Right, they're just helping out. Another tool in our menopause toolkit.
Toolbox. That's right. Yeah. So you also talk about a lot of myths that there are behind menopause that people believe. And can you share some of those myths that people believe?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest myths that culture definitely has taught me or shown me my whole life is that that we've really demonstrated that as women get older, they don't have as much use in society, that they're old. Back in the day when menopause was a diagnosis, it's really hard to, even if we've debunked that and completely put that in the trash, it's still there, Yeah, you think about hysterectomies coming from women, the wandering womb of hysteria, that our womb just wandered around our body. And it's still, there's some pervasiveness, unfortunately, that's kind of just carried on. And that was centuries ago, right? And so we have menopause as a declining cognitive state for women. There are people who are still buying into that. And so, and I think sometimes women are buying into that. There's this declining state, or that we just fall off this proverbial cliff. And we are debunking that. Like, we get to define and redefine what we want midlife to look like for us, and every single one of us, it's going to be different. But it was such an amazing transformation and metamorphosis watching my mom, who was really in the throes of it and maybe was buying into it for 1 minute. She came on the other side of that, and she made an intention. She set an intention for herself. Remember, she was turning 50 years old. She wanted to go to Paris. She went to Paris, did that, check. And then I decided at 50, she was going to start running marathons. She was going to play competitive tennis. She was going to wear her cute shorts. She was going to continue her hair extensions, and she was going to look really good, run her business, and really have a lot of fun, having deep connections and doing the things that she really loved and things that she felt like were really going to challenge her. And my goodness, man, she sauntered through her 50s, youthful, gorgeous, living her best life on her terms. And so I always say, this is not your mama's menopause. Exactly. and it's mine. Honestly, I hope mine is my mama's menopause.
Yes. Yeah.
Made it look so good, and just redefining it on every single level. And so I just, I think these are the best years of our lives. This is when we have that deep knowing, that deep self-assurance, that confidence of who we are and how we want to show up in the world. And you think about when we look at all the women doing the big things in the world, because goodness knows there are countless women, right now. I'm thinking of just having a moment. But the CEO of Spanx, who just,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Just sold her
Mhm.
corporate.
Sarah
Yeah.
Blakely. Yeah.
Sarah
Yeah.
Blakely, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
rocking it,
Yes.
on her terms, just really a really fun example. But she's doing big things in the world, she's changing the world dynamic, and she's doing it. I want to say she's probably in her late 40s, early 50s right now. I'm not exactly how old she is, but just really doing it. And I look at all these women, like when we're doing the big things, it's in our 40s, it's in our 50s, it's in our 60s and our 70s. This is the time to seize it,
Yes.
and I think as long as we really love our bodies, nourish our bodies, pivot with our bodies are going to change. That's the miracle of womanhood. We change so much, right? We go from before puberty into puberty. That's a 12-year process as well, that we could get ready for that just being able to bear children in the world, continue this beautiful society. And then we get to gracefully saunter out. But we have to know that with those body changes, we used to talk about puberty and what puberty is for little girls and really gearing them up for success. But then it's like reverse puberty for us in our 40s into our 50s. How do we pivot? How do we love ourselves and honor ourselves in that process as we move into that next beautiful transition in our life? And I think if we look at it in that way, that we are gaining so much in the process of who we get to become, but really honoring our bodies in the process. I think people just didn't tell us, girl, you got to pivot. And now that we know we got to pivot, guess who can do that? We can do that.
Yeah, because you were always just told, well, yeah, that's normal.
Yeah,
go ahead, that's normal. Too bad we can't do anything about it. That's normal. And so I did find, I like that you addressed those myths in there, that's not the case. And using your mother and her story as example was really great, just to show how she turned around running. I think you said like over 70 marathons and half marathons. Yeah, that's great. And
she's got the trophies
and the medals and the trophies. Yes. Yeah. And then you also, there was a guide included. I know your book, I have the Audible book, but there's also a PDFs in there. Can you talk a little bit about that? A guide to that.
Absolutely. So the book, so when I'm contracted, I was contracted for 65,000 words. I submitted 160,000 words. Just to give you a sense, I wrote 100,000 words over the word count. So my publishing house was like, we will compromise at 90. That's all you get. You get 90,000 words. We're cutting out a lot. They cut out the breast and bone and cardiovascular chapter. A lot of my chapters were cut. And so what we wanted to do, it was a lot of content that I think women really needed. And so what we ended up doing is we made them as bonuses, so that their resources, a part of the book. Not only that, but also I wasn't able to put in all the lab results. That is a 20-page document in its own right. They won't let me do that. There's things that they're like, we appreciate that you want to be thorough, but you can put that somewhere else. And so there's a lot of times labs we don't know we should be asking for, lab normals we don't know about. Just, my podcast, the Essentially podcast, is all about becoming the CEO of your health, because if there's anything that you walk away from today's conversation is that we really have to be empowered to take our health into our own hands, because we are individual. My body's going to be different than your body. I'm going to need a different amount of vitamin B vitamins or magnesium than maybe somebody else is. Maybe I'm able to function on a little bit more or less progesterone than somebody else is. So it's important to know these things. So I have all of these resources that comes with the book, so that you are set up for success. Although I did do the best. The book is very comprehensive. The part 3, that 21-day challenge or a makeover will change someone's life.
Yes.
You talk about the importance of herbs and your diet along with it. Are there any essential oils that might curb your cravings, or have you kind of stopped before you're on your way to the fridge?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking a lot about peppermint. She is a jack of all trades. I'll tell you what. You can have her for a workout. You can use her for brain function, but most importantly, she's amazing for cravings. And we have to think about what a craving's coming from, right? We think about, so often, what are we really craving? For me, it was always energy. I was like, can I just leverage more energy? I need that fuel for energy. And a fast energy is always a sugar energy, right? And so, so often, it's either we're bored or we're stressed, overwhelmed, we've had a hard day, or we just need we need more resources. And so unfortunately, those lend to metabolic dysfunction, insulin resistance, high levels of fasting blood sugar. And those are all very concerning because of the chronic conditions that can arise from that. I would say that a big bulk of menopausal symptoms are actually driven by metabolic situations. And then we just throw some hormones on top of it to think it's going to fix it. And we never address the metabolic piece. And so what I recommend is having that peppermint oil in your back pocket, in your purse, anywhere, everywhere, in the kitchen, and just breathe it in. There was a great research article that was done in the Journal of Neurology, I want to say back in 2009, by Dr. Alan Hirsch, who looked at this really in great detail. And it could bypass a craving up to 80%, which is really profound, by simply breathing in peppermint essential oil.
That's pretty amazing.
That is. Where's my peppermint essential oil? I'll go grab it. Yeah,
So we
let me
should
grab
just have
that.
it like
Just right in my
attached to our
pocket.
nose.
Yeah,
In
there
my
you go.
pocket at all times.
Yeah, it completely
Yes.
diverts the brain. It completely diverts the whole experience. And a craving usually lasts about 90 seconds, which honestly, you can do a lot of damage in 90 seconds. You can get to a decent pint of Ben and Jerry's, or you can pretty much mow down that entire chocolate bar in 90 seconds time. Especially if that driving of a craving is like that intense driver, which is always is. You can definitely mow down something in 90 seconds.
Yes.
And again,
I can mow it. Yeah. I mow it down. I eat everything in between to resist that. And then I go and get what I really wanted in the first place. And now I don't eat anymore. Yeah.
You're just adding it on.
I'm just adding it.
And
yeah.
again, we're saying that everything in your toolbox. So, use these things. It's not going to get rid of everything you want. It's not a panacea perfect solution, but everything that can help us, we want women to know about. So
yes,
definitely
any tool in the toolbox, right? That's a healthy, natural, no symptom driven tool is what I'm looking for.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
So where can women find your book?
It is anywhere books are sold. Amazon and Barnes & Noble is a really great place to go get them if that's what works for you. If you love a local bookstore, a lot of major local bookstores will have them. You may have to order it from your local bookstore. So that's where it is. And then if you're looking for the bonuses, and I know I have the link for that as well, but I think it's drmariza.com/hormone or menopause book. But we can definitely get the link to make sure you have all of that, so you can get the bonuses and all the goodies. I have a masterclass in there, and so lots of great resources, because I wanted women to feel so equipped to implement these changes. Because at the end of the day, it's one thing to have theory, it's one thing to really break down what is going on. I think women deserve that, but it's another thing to implement. And that is what I've always been about. Like, how can we do this with a lot of ease and grace, knowing that these amazing women in your community are busy, just straight up.
Yes.
That is true. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Mariza. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.